To be safe, we're told, we need the most guns, the biggest bombs, the strongest military. Resources are poured into defense with little oversight. Each time the term national security is invoked, it's as if a veil is being pulled down to obscure government actions. When calls for security are at their height, government officials act with more secrecy and more power than usual, which has led to egregious violations of human rights in the US. Japanese detention camps during World War II, torture of Muslim detainees after 9/11, separation of children at the border. Systems of inequality determine who deserves protection, as generational violence and police brutality against Black, Indigenous, and other people of color has so consistently demonstrated within the US, and as our foreign policy has demonstrated domestically and abroad. So when we hear that big choices are being made and that resources are being committed for our safety or security, we should be asking, what do they mean by our safety? Who gets to define it and who gets to be safe? We need to drag the compass needle of national security and safety away from military and police violence and towards the protection of human life and communities. It's not enough for one class of people or for one nation to be safe. No one nation decides who has human rights because all people do. In the early days of the COVID-19 global pandemic, governments mobilized quickly to protect life by enacting policies and providing resources. But long-standing social and economic inequalities foretold that laborers considered indispensable would end up carrying a heavy burden of vulnerability, often without the social safety net they deserved. Life-saving vaccines were developed in unprecedented time, but as the dust settled, we saw the unequal distribution of the vaccine, leaving countries in the global south without access to the medical care they needed. Life must be protected and centered in everything that we do, and communities and the environments that sustain them must be part of this equation. In 2017, under the guise of national security, the EPA rolled back safety standards that applied to over 12,000 high-risk chemical facilities in the U.S. Over 124 million people in the U.S. live in a fence line zone, within 3 miles of a high-risk facility. Each year, the EPA reports roughly 150 serious occurrences at these facilities, such as chemical fires and explosions that destroy homes and lives, and toxic spills and chemical releases that poison people, animals, land, and waterways. Most of these communities are Black, Latino, immigrant, or low income. They deserve the same healthy environments that other communities enjoy. We can no longer trade one community's prosperity for another's. All humans deserve the security and the opportunity to thrive. Beyond clean air, water, and food, every person on the planet should live with dignity and care, with enough basic resources to enter into economic relationships without the threat of poverty, starvation, or incarceration. Communities have to be able to support themselves without submitting to extractive industries and policies that destroy their ecosystems. In the global north, we hear that we will suffer if we do not allow corporations to pay pennies to the workers who make our essential needs. This equation was always wrong, but the longer we have let this go on, the closer it has come to home. The heads of these corporations live in stratospheric luxury. While our wages go down, our cost of living goes up, and our lives become less and less safe. By allowing people we couldn't see to be traded for our convenience, we opened up the gates to our own devaluation. Humans have an almost innate ability to create solidarity with each other, and the same can be extended to communities and nations. States are governed by domestic and international legal frameworks that center human rights, but much of what is done in the name of national security does not conform to these legal frameworks and does not protect basic human rights. A state that prioritizes militarization over human well-being is one that characterizes people fleeing desperate circumstances in their home countries as a security threat and allows Border Patrol agents to intimidate, incarcerate, abuse, and even shoot a teenager across a border fence without any legal repercussions. We can't let the veil of national security continue to serve as cover for toxic actions. We don't need to ask for inclusion in the conversation on their terms. We can declare our own ongoing presence as part of the solution in a new conversation, and we can demand transparency and accountability as part of our terms. Our differences may sometimes cause friction, but our lives are intertwined, and when we fail to see that, when we act as if one community or one nation can exist without the health and safety of others, we undermine one of the foundations of what it is to be human, that we live in relationship with others and the planet. The old paradigm sees the natural world as a pyramid, with the land and plants and animals existing to serve humans, with some humans existing naturally as servants for others. Our greatest achievement, we're told, is to be on top. It is possible to tell a better story, where the algebra of safety is no longer zero-sum, where the excess and scarcity balance out to sustain everyone, where safety means living a life that is rich and fulfilled among vibrant communities that coexist with mutual respect. We are called upon at this time, as citizens, as activists and neighbors, as participants in a global dialogue, and as community leaders, to envision and communicate transformative solutions. We offer these principles for inclusion in your narratives about security.